the largest
Over the years,
intelligence
I've repeatedly made
apparatus
clear
in the world,
that we would take action
with the
within
biggest
Pakistan
budget in the
if we knew
history
where
of the
bin Laden
world,
was.
has been looking
what
for
we've done.
Osama bin Laden for
But it's
years and
important
years and years.
to note that our counterterrorism cooperation
can't
with
find
Pakistan helped lead us
Some
to bin Laden.
doofus jerk-off
and the
reporter
compound where he was hiding.
with a camera crew
Indeed, bin Laden
walks right into his hideout and interviews. So why do all these fools believe
When the
this
Soviet
Iran?
Union invaded Afghanistan, we had
The
this
American
brilliant
people did
idea
not
that
choose
we were
this
going to
fight.
come to
It's because
Pakistan
they're not
and
trying
create
to, they don't
a
want
force
to.
of mujahideen,
Osama bin
equip
Laden
them
is
with
their
Stinger missiles and everything
creation,
else
and
to
he
go
is
after the
serving
Soviets
nearly
inside
10 years.
Afghanistan.
The Second Amendment is not about duck hunting, but it's about our rights, all of our rights, to be able to protect ourselves from all of you guys up there.
UN Agenda 21, bailouts, sellouts, Lehman Brothers, Goldman Sachs, false flag, terror attacks, Bill Gates, Henry Kissinger, New World Order, mind control, Bank of America stealing homes with cut and paste mortgage loans, police, state, taser guns, FEMA camps, mad run, Monsanto rules the food supply while Big Pharma dopes your mind, prison system, profiteers, foundations, fund the fears, fund the evil through the years, the world's not as it appears. CIA smuggles drugs while Wachovia and Wells Fargo launder them, then give the proceeds to the owners of the Federal Reserve Bank. Now the IRS takes money out of every single check. Money created out of thin air and leave you with debt. They want to make you a serf, a slave to their demand. They want to take your life in every way they can. Fluoride, GMO, vaccines, chemtrails, United Nations genocide. The world they show us is not real. This is how they kill and steal. Rothschild, Bundy, Rockefeller, Club of Rome. On the Georgia Guidestones written in stone. Cut through the
And on
matrix.
nights like this one,
Do not
we can say to those families who have lost loved ones to Al-Qaeda's terror,
liberty and
justice has been done.
The lethality of their power is greater than ever. Their capacity to impose control over the politically awakened masses of the world is at a historical low. And in earlier times, it was easier to control a million people than physically to kill a million people. Today, it is infinitely easier to kill a million people than to control a million people.
Something's gotten lost. And something is the truth. What is it in us that seeks the truth? Is it our minds? Or is it our hearts?
They're refusing to release the cause of death for Charlie Castle. Which is, I spoke with him. I'm checking my records, and I know I spoke with him either Monday or Tuesday, and I'm fairly sure I spoke with him on Tuesday.
Oh my God.
And Tuesday night at 10:20 p.m., because he's been faxing me all his legal papers and stuff, 10:20 on Tuesday night, and he was supposed to have died on Tuesday. He sent me a fax. So, he must have died like within an hour and a half after that fax. And which means, that he died very suddenly. It means that, which would indicate either a heart attack or stroke. Which is, I've got some information. I've been writing for quite some time now about what I call the imposter pharmaceuticals and how they cause heart attacks and strokes.
Right.
And, I don't know. I have to be very careful in terms of what I say, but I can certainly ask questions, and I can certainly discuss, the depth of the fraud that he was subjected to. Anyway,
it's an incredible story for those that are watching. Charles Castle was a homeless man who was extremely lucid. We had done a show earlier, Janet, right? And you played a broadcast on the broadcast. You played him, his speaking with you, and he was absolutely lucid and not crazy. But the authorities picked him up and put him into a mental institution and created this state.
Correction. Actually, he was only very briefly in a mental institution. He was deemed to be incompetent, mentally incompetent, but and then he was put under a conservatorship, and the conservator pretty much refused to put him into a treatment facility. He was being held in convalescent hospitals And if he was as crazy as a coot, which is, what they say when they put you under a mental health conservatorship, then he should really have been in a facility where they treat mental health problems, shouldn't he?
Absolutely. And now there's like all this emphasis on mental health issues like going on here with all this terrible stuff. They're trying to not blame Big Pharma, but Big Pharma's got a big part in this whole nightmarish scenario. It's unbelievable.
Well, there's so much that has happened in our country in the last 10 or so years where things that we consider, to be assistive have actually been weaponized.
Absolutely.
Medicine is certainly included in that.
I mean,
So-
they could have given him, something that would have caused him to, like you said, because you spoke to him an hour and a half before he was dead. That's unbelievable.
I'm not sure really where you started taping, but yes, he was being held in Brazos Community Convalescent Care in Yucaipa, and I'm checking my records. I'm pretty sure I spoke with him on Tuesday. He was going to send me a fax, and it came in around 10:30 p.m. on Tuesday night. But he was, according to what I can glean from the coroner's office, he died on Tuesday. So he must have died within an hour and a half after sending that fax. When I last spoke with him, he was not ill. He was not feeling ill. He was, he was mad. I mean, he wants to get out. He wanted to get out of that facility where he was being held against his will, but sick, no. Now, I want to give some kind of background on all of the levels of fraud and deprivation of rights that he was afflicted with, because he, according to the law, if someone goes under a mental health conservatorship, they do have the right to a jury trial. But his lawyers made sure he never got that jury trial. So it was exposed a few months ago in an article on Activist Post, and I believe also on Op-Ed News and elsewhere, that the lawyer representing Charlie Castle, named Brian Hartnell, was also representing the conservator, Melody Scott, at the very same time in the same case, representing both sides of the matter. And not only that, a judge pro tem, a temporary judge named Walter Moore, who had been with Hartnell's law firm. We're not sure if he was with Hartnell's law firm at the same time he was sitting as a judge on the case, but he certainly did sit as a judge on the case. So
then all this conflict of interest going on.
All this conflict of interest going on. So as soon as we exposed the fact that Brian Hartnell was representing both sides of the case, he resigned. And a new attorney was appointed by the court named Mark Flory. But before Brian Hartnell left the case, he did something very damaging to Charlie Castle. He filed a petition for a rehearing, which is, Charlie wanted to be in front of a judge because Charlie had never seen a judge. All of this was happening behind closed doors, and he was, just his life was being destroyed without him even getting in front of a judge. So what Brian Hartnell did was he filed a petition for a rehearing and stated in the petition that he didn't think that a jury trial would be necessary. And so he explicitly made sure that Charlie would not get his jury trial, which is exactly what Charlie was requesting all along. So in comes Mark Flory, the new attorney, and as I had requested him to, Charlie was faxing me all of the correspondence that came in from Flory, and I do have a letter where, I have more than one letter, where Flory repeatedly promises him, you're going to get your jury trial, you're going to get your jury trial. I've got the list of witnesses that you've given me, and I will be contacting them. Mark Flory never contacted one of the witnesses on the witness list. Number one. Number two, in writing, Mark Flory promised Charlie that he would have his jury trial, and it was going to happen on January 10th through 11th. Didn't take place. It was vacated. And according to one of the county employees in San Bernardino who has gotten involved in trying to help out with Charlie's, plight. It was vacated because the conservator couldn't arrange to get into court.
Oh, it was too inconvenient for him.
Well, Melody Scott also resigned the case, okay? There was a lot of pressure put on, I believe, both Hartnell and Melody Scott through the articles that got published about what was happening to Charlie. So she resigned, and the public guardian took over. So the public guardian, which is basically San Bernardino County, couldn't arrange to get a car from Yucaipa to bring Charlie over to San Bernardino, which is 20 minutes away. Couldn't arrange to do that, so the case had to be vacated. Well, I'll tell you what's even stranger about that. Charlie went ahead and wrote a letter to the judge asking that Mark Flory be removed because Flory was just talking out of both sides of his mouth. Well, Flory rushed into court and made sure that there was a hearing on this on January 11th. This is one of the dates for Charlie's trial, and arranged to get Charlie into that hearing. So why couldn't he, if he could show up for court on January 11th and tell the judge that he didn't want Mark Flory as his lawyer, why couldn't they get him in on the 10th for his trial?
Yeah, why not?
Why not? Well, and then on Tuesday the 15th, really, 4 or 5 days after he's supposed to finally get his trial, which he doesn't get, he topples over dead.
Unbelievable. And, so this man was taken off the street, put into these convalescent homes, he was deemed psychologically challenged or whatever, mentally ill.
Whatever, something.
And
along those lines.
Yeah, whatever they did, and they just put him in there, and he couldn't leave.
He couldn't leave. He was locked up. He was
like
locked
a prisoner.
Like a prisoner. And like I said, I want to say it again. If he was so mentally ill that he was, not able to take care of himself, why wasn't he put into a treatment facility? It's an abomination. They just warehoused him. So there are further issues. Now, I was able to get quite a bit of Charlie Castle's legal file. Now, I need to say that these are secret proceedings, and the file is therefore secret. And they're secret because of HIPAA laws, which say that mental health information needs to be protected.
Right.
So getting his file was a challenge. So Charlie went ahead and asked Mark. Well, first of all, he asked Brian Hartnell for his file. Brian Hartnell's office responded saying, we couldn't give you your file. It would be a felony for us to give you your file.
Oh.
That happens. Oh, completely untrue. So when we got Brian Hartnell, off the case, Mark Flory did turn over Charlie's file to him. And thanks to a wonderful activist in the Inland Empire who went in to the facility where Charlie was and took the file. This was the plan, and then sent it to me. So I have Charlie's file, and I want to say that mental health conservatorships have to be reviewed and renewed every year. Charlie originally went under a mental health conservatorship, I believe it was in June of 2011, and I saw no documentation that showed he was ever recertified. In the file, whether or not Mark Flory gave him his entire file, I don't know. But in terms of what I was sent, there was no evidence, which means that he really wasn't conserved. He was just being held. Now,
but you got to figure. But we still haven't. We talked about this, Janet. Really, what was the motive? We were trying to find the motive behind these really sadistic, people.
Well, it does turn. Well, the motive. It does turn out that Charlie Castle's family, like grandparents and aunts and uncles and so forth, may have owned quite a bit of valuable property.
And he was entitled to that property.
Might have been, don't know. I have searched the relevant counties to find out if the will was probated. It was not probated. So, as far as I can tell, if